So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And thank you all for spending another hour with me here in the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Simul Radio, and Simul TV. Now, if you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. If you'd like to check out the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, just go to www.xzbn.net. And for the programming of the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, which is Channel 21, visit simultv.com. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Monk Yun Ro. And Yun Ro means soft cloud, has been called the new Alvin Watts. Born Arthur Rosenfeld in the city of New York. He received his academic background at Yale, Cornell, and the University of California, and was ordained a Taoist monk in, how do you pronounce that?
Well, you can just say Canton.
Oh, Canton.
Most people know it that
way.
way.
China in 2012. Host of the hit national public TV show Longevity Tai Chi, he is the author of more than 15 books, including award-winning novels optioned for film in Hollywood and Asia. Joining me now from New York City is our very own Monk Yun Rao. And Monk, welcome to the show.
So wonderful to be here. Thank you, Rob.
First of all, why did you decide to become a Taoist?
So this is the trajectory of a lifetime, I suppose. But really, the easiest answer is I was born a seeker, and I didn't find the answers that I was looking for in the culture that was around me, and I began trekking further and further afield. And so, when I was a kid, that trekking just involved going to my mom's library and looking at things. She was a philosophy major and a lot of Asian stuff. So early on as a kid, I got turned on to all that. And then David Carradine with his TV show Kung Fu in the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember that. Everybody else was watching it for the butt kicking, and I was watching it to watch the equanimity and wisdom of those monks. There was one that was blind, and he could hear a cricket break wind at 100 paces, he seemed so calm. I remember I didn't know that I wanted to be a monk at that stage, but I was fascinated by it at 10 years old.
Oh, grasshopper!
Anyway,
Grasshopper! The fart of the
Exactly.
cricket means that you're way too close to his butthole.
Yeah.
So, did you live in a monastery?
So I was ordained in a monastery, and I've trained in several monasteries and spent time in monasteries, but I don't live in one. So there is you can be a lay monk, which means that you have a normal life, but you go to the monastery from time to time, or you can be a monastery monk where you actually live there. But the Taoist monks in China, many of them are young men who come from well-to-do families, because in Chinese culture you can't you can't become a monk, which means abdicating your responsibilities financially, to your family to support people. You can't do that unless you're from a family of means. So many of the Taoist monks in China, and it's certainly not true of all of them, but many of them, especially in the urban temples, go home at night to their families and come back, and they spend 7 years there. I've been at this pursuit in this discipline of martial arts and Taoism for closing in on 40 years now, so a little bit different setup for me, but same ideas.
What is your ultimate goal?
So I have a mission, which has been given to me by my teachers of what they want me to do, and then I have a set of my personal goals, and sometimes those things intersect, not always. My ultimate goal for myself personally is self-cultivation, and the mission I've been given is to spread these ideas in the West, as I have been doing with books and television over the years. They like that I do that. The Chinese are very proud of their traditional culture, despite the despotic stuff that's going on in China now, which resembles, the purging of traditional culture by Mao half a century ago. But generally speaking, if a Westerner is really keen on their traditions and their history and their philosophy and their culture, they appreciate it.
Okay. Why do you want to bring Taoism to America?
So I look around, and the things that I see are so disturbing, whether it's the problems that we have in our personal lives, the anger, the angst, the depression, the suicide, the drug abuse, the racism, all the things that we are reading about in the newspaper every day. And then also, Taoists traditionally have a keen sense of the natural world and an affection for it and respect for it. And I'm watching this, global holocaust and in other sentient beings on the planet and our environment, and I'm just thinking, these ideas would be very helpful in changing the way people look at themselves and at the world. If we were to visit somebody's house and they treated their house the way we treat our planet, there would be urine and feces everywhere, and things would be decrepit, and the roof would be coming in, and there would be leaks, and it would smell bad, and we would go, my goodness.
Yeah, it sounds like the country of India.
What kind of the country of India in places does look like that, and just generally what we're doing to the planet, we don't really think about it as our home. So Taoism has a real root in watching and learning from nature, and I don't know that you would call it nature worship, but the study of nature and the appreciation of nature is a core tenet.
So let's call it the awareness,
people,
the awareness of nature.
So awareness is step one, right? And then you have to be sensitive to it and care for it and believe that we are part of it, and if we destroy it, we destroy us. I don't believe that self-centered view is the only view, but it seems to be the one that many people respond to first.
Sure. Let me ask you this. If Christianity can't do it, if Catholicism can't do it, and the other religious philosophical organizations and beliefs that are out there can't do it, why do you think Taoism can do it?
It's really quite different from those. And in fact, some of these Abrahamic faiths are at the root of the problems that we have, at least with the environment, because there is this notion, this biblical notion of hegemony over the natural world being granted to human beings, and a concomitant idea that human beings are separate from the rest of nature, created in God's image and all that stuff, and sort of sit above with the job of stewardship. And that notion of stewardship has kind of been perverted to, it's all here for us. It's our sandbox. If we want to crap it up, we can do that. Everything is here for us. And that root idea, which is in Western culture, is not in Eastern culture. Now, having said that, the modern Chinese nation is committing a more grievous environmental holocaust than we are.
Time.
When I go there, I'm aghast at what their natural world looks like, but, they're not following Taoist principles.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've got to take my commercial break shortly. If it's not being followed in China, where I believe Taoism started, and they're the worst offenders of the ecological state this planet is in, how do you expect anyone else to follow the lead if the country where the organization was founded doesn't follow it?
Well, if you're following the news, you recognize that what's going on in China is religious intolerance. So they've been extinguishing religions left and right. They've kicked out the Christians. They're clamping down on the Buddhists. I read a day or two ago that they just destroyed a Taoist statue on the mountain that the greatest Taoist sage was supposed to have been born on. It was I don't remember, 60-foot statue that was put together by the villagers, and the government came in and took it down. So the fact that a tyrannical regime is destroying religious institutions doesn't obviate the value of those institutions.
All right, stand by, sir. We've got to take our first break. Exo Nation, our guest is Monk Yoon Ro, and we'll be back on the other side as we investigate the world of the paranormal, the science of parapsychology, and everything far and few between here in the Exo from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, Xzone Radio TV. For more information on the Xzone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Don't forget the X Chronicles newspaper is available now online with our compliments as it is each and every month at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com, and we've been publishing it monthly since 1990. Our guest this hour is Monk Yun Ro, and he is in the city of New York, and he is a Taoist monk. And before I went to the break, you know, it seems ironic that the very place where Taoism started is the worst offender. And then you pointed out something very interesting, that the government, pulled down a Taoist statue. And we've got the same thing happening in the United States when people in the South are having their statues of Robert E. Lee and other Southerners pulled down by the government. Ironic. It's a funny parallel, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose on some level it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that, there doesn't really seem to be any political juice around Taoism in China, although what is interesting is that traditionally, and by that I mean during the long throw of 5,000-year Chinese history, the Taoist monks, the Taoist masters, at many times in that history had very vaunted positions as the people who whispered in the ear of the emperor. They were the magicians, the shamans, the wizards, the sages to whom the emperor would turn to ask such questions as, look, I've only got so many soldiers, and the enemy is coming at me from all sides. Where should I send them? North, south, east, or west? And the Taoist monk or master would have to sort of read the cues that he picked up from the court and from sources that he had, and maybe also from watching nature. And I can give you an example of what I mean. And he had to advise the king. And if he screwed up, then everybody died, including him. The barbarians overran them. And if he was right, then he became, the second most powerful person in the country. So there is this long history of Taoists being sort of whisperers in the ear of the powers that be. So I guess it wouldn't be completely accurate to say that there's no political content to the presence of Taoist statues or Taoist teachers. But I guess to help understand it better, the government in China now, as Mao did, in the previous generation or two, just doesn't want any competition for loyalty or power, and so they're just eradicating everybody. They're doing these purges, and that's sort of a separate question as to, what are the worthwhile tenets and ideas behind Taoism. This is all politics. It doesn't have much to do with the ideas.
How many Taoists, based on your best approximation, are there in the United States?
So, one can only go by, people who call themselves Taoists. And I really, and I think so many martial arts practitioners, particularly if they're following Chinese Kung Fu styles, many of those styles, although not all of them, have a Taoist basis. So, I think in the number of people who read books like the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching and the Zhuangzi, which are well known in Asian and Sinophilic circles, they say that the core text of Taoism is the second most widely translated book in the world after the Judeo-Christian Bible. So it's not really a fringe religion, and it is one of the largest. It's one of the 5, big ones, I guess, on the planet. But how many of them there are in the United States, I really don't know. I think there are probably about 50,000 Taoist monks all over the world. Obviously, a lot, many, many fewer than that in the West.
It's And is your job or your goal to recruit as many people into Taoism as you can?
So I don't know that I would say recruit. We don't really have that idea. We don't proselytize, and we don't have any of that. I remember that my abbot once told me, it doesn't matter what you call these ideas. If you want to call them, turkey stuffing or gobbledygook, feel free, as long as people understand, principles like humility and frugality and compassion, and as long as they understand the ideas of harmony and balance and following lessons of nature, you can call it whatever you want. So we're not. I don't think of myself as looking, to recruit followers or converts. We don't really have any of that. But I just noticed that there are so many useful ideas in this philosophy, and some people consider it a philosophy, not a religion. But there's just many useful ideas, and one core one is that there was this saying, I think it was Gandhi, who said, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, that statement lends itself or raises 2 how questions, right? The first how question is, okay, how do I change myself? And the second how question is, how does changing myself have the effect on the world that the statement implies? And so, Mad Monk Manifesto, the book that I'm with you to talk about, addresses those things very clearly, and it starts by talking about changes that we can make in our own behavior and in our own lives, which, ripple outward to those around us, and eventually, like dropping a stone in a pond, to a wider and wider community. And so if I have a goal with the book and with these ideas, it's to drop that stone.
Once again, it seems that everything that you just said about Taoism has been tried before and it's failed.
I don't know why you say that. Give me an example.
Christianity, Catholicism. Nothing. They didn't. They're what?
They're not anything like Taoism. They're completely different ideas.
How do you figure that?
Well, they just don't have anything to do with each other. There's no God in Taoism.
Okay.
There's no required belief in the supernatural. There's no hierarchical organization which tells you what to do.
Well,
there's no request for tithing. There's no request for obedience or subservience. The entire thing is completely different.
All right, but you still have the same goal as Catholicism, as Christianity does. You want to make this a better world. Have faith in each other, love, respect. The basic tenets of every philosophy is the same. So is this just another flash in the past, flash in the pan philosophy that kind of resonates with the New Agers because they're looking for something that they can wrap their heads around because they kind of don't understand how to fit into proper society?
So I think that, there's a lot of loaded things that you just said. First of all, a religion or a philosophy that's 5,000 years old is anything but a flash in the pan. As far as New Agers go, sometimes I have sympathy for folks who are questing. I was one of them.
Oh.
I'm not sure that I generally feel like New Agers study anything in particular deeply. If you really want to do Taoism, so to speak, if you really want to understand those ideas and put them to work in your life, you got to work at it. That takes practice. It doesn't mean, showing up at a ceremony or reading a book.
Right.
Even what I hope is, my pretty good book, that's not enough. You can read the book, but then you have to do the work. As far as, the goals of Christianity intersecting with Taoism, I'm not an expert on Christianity, but I know that there's a lot of things in Christianity, the idea of an afterlife, the idea of heaven, the idea of being judged, all those things which, if you're a good Christian, you want to go to heaven, you want to be joined with God and so on. We don't have any of that stuff. So it's really not similar in any way.
So it's a philosophy based on while you're here only.
Totally.
So what happens to a Taoist when they die?
That's it.
Really?
End of the game. So, some Taoists admit, we are more agnostic than atheist, I suppose, because we don't say that we deny the possibility of something like reincarnation or some other level. We just don't know. And our attitude is we'll find out when we die. In the meantime, we got work to do.
All right, you've got work to do. I can understand what the work is, but you're born, you die, that's it. I have a problem with that.
So you want to make a good run of it with these ideas. You want to make a better world for yourself and the people you care about, and also for other living creatures on the planet.
Oh, sure. I understand that fully, and I can appreciate that. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Monk Yoon Ro, and he is the author of Mad Monk Manifesto. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the Exxon from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, don't forget, Exo Nation, if you'd like to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the Exxon Broadcast Network, go to www.xzbn.net. And to find out about the programming we have on the Exxon TV channel, which is channel 21 on Simul TV, www.simultv.com, with 139 million subscribers and growing.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Elie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Monk Yoon Ro. He is the author of Mad Monk Manifesto. And where can people get copies of your book?
So thanks for asking that, and also thank you for doing such a good job with my name. I keep seeing it. I keep listening to it butchered on these interviews I've been doing lately. So I give you 9 bows. I got a big smile on my face from our lively conversation and from your excellent pronunciation. So it's on Amazon, Mad Monk Manifesto. It's on the other online booksellers. It's in a Kindle form, an electronic form, ebook, and also paperback, and of course in local bookstores too.
Why did you write your book, Monk?
So I suppose I was stimulated by the events of 2016. I was watching the unfolding presidential debates, and I got riled up in a way that a monk isn't supposed to. And I started to put down ideas for my thoughts about things being said on both sides. And then later I watched more debates, and I started to add to these ideas. And at some point, I shared them with my literary agent, who said, "Listen, put aside the other things you're working on and flesh out this and make it into a book, because this is really good fun and important stuff." So I guess that's how it was born. It's not my usual way. I haven't written a manifesto before.
Why did you change your name to a Taoist name?
Well, I was given the name, and it's a lovely name. If you understand the meaning and the history behind it, it's really it's a great honor to me. And this is how I self-identify. Of course, my family and old friends from school, I don't walk around saying, "You can't call me Arthur anymore, you have to call me Yoon Ro." But out in the world, this is who I am, what I do.
Do you dress like a Taoist monk?
Sometimes. I have a variety of different robes for different occasions. The traditional one has a kind of a squared-off hat, which looks vaguely papal, but it's black, and black robes with a white collar, white leggings, flat black shoes. I wear them, but not every day. It depends on what I'm doing. I don't wear them to the gym.
You talk a lot about anger in your book, even using the word mad in the title. Why do you think American people are so angry?
I think I appreciate this question. I think that we are angry because so many of us feel that basic needs that we have, which are emotional and social primarily, are not being met. But we don't even realize that we're sort of caught in a system which is depriving us of these things: interactions with each other, appreciation for the work we do or the lives we lead. And so growing alienation leads us to do things like spend our time online on social media, or worse, in video games, where increasingly realistic VR is a viable and sometimes more attractive alternative than the drudgery or the alienation or the frustrations of our everyday lives. And I think it would be easy enough to say we need to toughen up, but I don't think it's. I mean, I do think that to some extent.
Sure.
But I don't think that's the primary thing. I think a lot of us are well-intended and work hard and want to enjoy our lives and have good relationships with other people, but we're kind of caught in a society that's lost its way. And so I think that those feelings fester in many people, and they make us angry. Whether it's watching, ridiculous things like reality TV shows with billionaires and their planes or their houses, and we think, what? I want a life like that, and how come, instead I'm working, 16 hours a day, and I'm driving a crappy car, and living in an apartment where I can't get any sleep because the neighbors are always yelling and screaming and banging on the walls.
You've brought up several good points, but I must say that, number one, if people want change, they can make the change by entering the political arena. The majority of people talk a mean game, but they're really lazy when it comes to doing anything. They want you to solve their problems for you. And as far as the guy who sits in his apartment complaining because he's driving a car that is old or he can't stand the neighbors, why didn't he prevent, or why didn't he prepare himself properly when he was growing up to achieve his goals? Did he have any goals? Did he have any dreams? There's three sides to every story. I was taught by one of my criminology professors. There's his side, her side, and the truth. You never look at anything as if it's in two dimensions. You've got to look at the three-dimensional aspect of every situation.
So I think, I like what you're saying. I actually say quite a bit of this in my book, but I want to give you a counterpoint to make our conversation more interesting.
Yeah.
I think that in general, what you say is true, but it also presumes a lot. So number one, when we talk about goals and we talk about what to do and getting off your duff and doing things and becoming politically active, that presumes a great deal of empowerment and knowledge and sophistication. It's not that a lot of people don't want to do the things you just said. I think most people do. I would disagree that most people are lazy. I don't think most people are. I don't think most people don't care. I think most people have absolutely no idea how to do these things.
But they can learn.
They
can learn.
Okay. I agree they can learn, which is why I wrote my book. It's a way to help people learn. But even learning itself, one of the best things that we could be taught, but we're not as kids, is how to learn. This is not really a part of most people's education. Education is a subject that I engage a bit in the book. But, when there is a system that wants things from us, as opposed to wanting things for us, then the deck is stacked. And some people manage to figure out how to beat it, but that doesn't mean that the people who don't figure that out are bad people, or lazy, or wrong, or dumb.
Give me an example. Give me an example. Give me an example of the deck being stacked.
I think education is not available at the same level to everyone. So if you are born into a wealthy family and you can go to a private school and go to a private college, as I did, by the way, you immediately gain access to all kinds of opportunities which you simply cannot do if you were born in the barrio, go to public school, go to a community college, and then try to get a job. It's not an equal playing field. It just isn't. So, that's one. You asked for one example.
It is if your marks are good enough, sir. It is if you have the aptitude to prove yourself.
Absolutely not.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you, sir.
No, yeah, I get it. We disagree on this. If your marks are good enough, you may be admitted to a top school, and then your parents are presented with a $75,000 bill a year.
Okay.
And there it ends. Right? So for some small percentage of people, they can get a scholarship.
Yeah.
Some of these schools give them a scholarship. But, the dreams doesn't take off because you have good marks and you're smart. You have to have the opportunity. You have to have the means. So, there's, again, you asked me for an example. There are so many others, but this is a good one. This is a good one. There are people who just don't have those opportunities. And the idea that this is really, in fact, a level playing field and all you need to do is be disciplined and work hard just isn't true. You do need those things, but you don't need only those things.
So what are we doing, passing the buck to society or on to the people who have actually made the grade?
Well, I don't know that I would use the phrase passing the buck. I'm not interested in pointing fingers. I'm interested in seeing how we can change it. So certainly in Mad Monk Manifesto, I talk about, what a more utopian society would look like. And when people say, boy, this is like, I read your book and those really sound like great ideas, but they're totally unreasonable and unreachable. I mean, we're never going to get to that. My answer is there is some value in putting forth what it would be, what we would like to see, and what an ideal society would really look like. Because once we have a pretty clear idea of that, we can begin to do the work of getting to it. If we don't really even agree on what it would look like, we're just going to kick around in the mud.
Geez, I don't know. That sounds an awful lot like being a good person here on earth, following the Ten Commandments and earning your way into heaven to me.
Well, there's so much there, the belief in the supernatural. And, our gods are, of course, between our ears. Every culture has them. Every culture thinks that theirs are the one. The god of the Old Testament was a Babylonian, Assyrian god. I think it was a god of storms or something, Yahweh, and he was one of a pantheon of gods.
Yeah, but once no matter what, no matter. People have the right. People have the right to believe in who they want to believe in, what they want to believe in, and how they believe.
Absolutely.
That is their right.
Agreed.
So we'll be back on the other side of this segment as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studio in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Path Home Shamanic Art School has just launched a new online series of classes, Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow. In these classes, composed and taught by Path Home founder and director Gwilda Wiyaka, you'll learn practical shamanic skills to support your daily life, such as how to build a medicine wheel to access the power of the earth, perform a shamanic journey, create sacred space in which to live and work, empower your life with totem animals, elementals, and fairy folk, and learn the art of accurately reading signs and omens. These tried and true skills are the key to living a powerful, productive life. Visit us at findyourpathhome.com to see the ever-growing collection of classes and leading-edge information to support you during these times of uncertainty and transition. All can be found at findyourpathhome.com.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, The 70-Year Cover-Up Exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Monk Yoon Ro, and he's the author of Mad Monk Manifesto, and it's available at all online bookstores. I have to ask you this, Monk. Your title is Mad Monk Manifesto. Why not Angry Monk Manifesto? Because mad has, is, kind of makes people think that you're a little loony.
That's why. That's why I didn't make it angry. Well, of course, I wanted the alliteration in the title. I like that better. But but there is some delicious craziness to writing something as utopian as this, and I embrace it. So there's a bumper sticker that I've seen around over the years that if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. I like that, and so there is a little bit of sort of emotional juice that comes to me from seeing things that I think are wrong and bad and wanting to help fix them. But the crazy part is also part of the charm of this whole thing, because it really is a whole different way of looking at the world and at the things we take for granted. And I don't by any means expect everybody to read the book and nod and say, yes, I agree with all of that. But if I've done my job, then people are really thinking hard about the positions that they've had on things and wondering whether there might not be another opportunity, another option, another way of looking at things.
Without spoiling it for your readers, could you give us an idea of what your idea of utopia is?
So I think that if we could see the planet and each other as not other, so with a capital O. So the Taoist idea is that the view that we are disconnected from nature and from each other is a false construct of our brain, and that actually if we were able to see, if our sensorium were more expanded, if we were able, for example, to see more different frequencies of light, or hear more different frequencies of sound, or perceive more vibrations and energies that are out there, and we can see them with scientific instruments, but we can't see them in a way that we can emotionally connect with. But if we were able to see things differently, we would notice that there is this vast sea of vibration and energy. The quantum scientists tell us about it. The Taoists have been talking about it for 5,000 years, and that we are all part of it. One way to think of it is that, each one of us is like a glove. And when I continue with this metaphor, you may feel that it resembles a Judeo-Christian metaphor, but in a slightly different way. And the glove is motivated by this hand. We don't have a name for the hand. We can call the process Tao, T-A-O or D-A-O. But Tao is not an entity like God would be. It's not a creator. It's just a process that is ongoing in the world. And so when we die, the fingers withdraw from the glove, and then they go into some other glove. And this doesn't necessarily imply that we're reincarnated, because that glove may be over and that's it, as I said earlier. But once you begin to see that it's all the same glove is motivating all of us, and you spend some time meditating and doing other practices that expand your consciousness a bit, you become much more sensitive to the fact that all the barriers and us and them ideas that we put forth in the world are our own constructs, and if we built them, we can take them down.
All right, if we built them, we can take them down. But what happens if the others involved in our life are unwilling to let them be taken down? Then what do you do?
You said earlier that people can believe in, and you felt strongly about people having the right to believe whatever they want, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea here is that I'm never going to say that anybody is forced into taking things down. All we can control is us.
Right.
And this is a core message of one of the famous books that I mentioned earlier, the Tao Te Ching. And that whole wonderful little book, it's a small book, it's only about 5,000 words. That little book is just about this idea that we work on ourselves. We don't worry about we don't attach to outcome, and we don't force anybody else to do anything. But the fact that we are doing this work on ourselves does have an effect, as in my aforementioned metaphor of the stone dropping in the pond. So, for example, let's say that you have one person in your family who becomes vegan, and most of the other people in the family think this is absolutely, this is the land of fruits and nuts and the most ridiculous thing ever. And yet, after a year or two, when you get together at holidays, you notice that this person has lost a bunch of weight, has a ton of energy, is thinking very clearly, and has, really seems happy and healthy and not restricted, doesn't seem to have the same back pain that we do, doesn't seem to, have the same sore knees, doesn't seem to anger as easily, and you begin to wonder, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if all that stuff has to do with that diet. And so then you talk about it with that person. I go, I found the same thing. When I was eating meat and I was doing all this other stuff, I felt like crap all the time. And now, I didn't know that it was really going to be like this, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Sure.
I was desperate. Maybe I was sick. And so I did this. And it really does have all those effects. So when you see this, nobody forces you. You look at it and you go, oh, okay. Maybe I'm going to try some moves in that direction. So, for example, I might stop eating chicken, or I might stop eating fish, or, just take one step at a time. And then if in your own experience you find that this also is making a positive change in your life, then you embrace it a little more. And then one day you find, wow, I'm vegan too, and I feel great. And now there are two people in your family that do this. And so, this is the way these things go. They go by example. They don't go by force. And the Mad Monk Manifesto is full of these kinds of ideas. And nobody is saying you should eat the whole pie or have it rammed down your throat. But it's a useful handbook for these kinds of ideas. You try them, and if they work for you, you embrace them. If they don't, you throw them out.
What is the difference between Taoism and the Hare Krishna group?
Oh, absolutely nothing to do with each other. Totally different. And I'm not an expert on Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna is an Indian discipline. I think it comes from Hinduism, if I remember right. But there's no connection whatsoever.
So we won't see a Taoist at the airport trying to sell flowers.
It's a lovely idea. I'd be happy to do it sometime, but I don't think so.
Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of similarities between what you're talking about and what the hippies were trying to get across in the 60s.
Well, I view the 60s as the pinnacle of American culture, but I don't really think that that's true. I think that there were a lot of dabblings, and you mentioned earlier the New Age thing, and you make the reference to the hippies. The problem that the hippies had is that they didn't have authentic information for the most part, and so they were well intended. Taoism is actually quite a structured and disciplined science of mind. It's not granola and flowers at all. It's actually quite structured and disciplined, and it involves certain practices for your mind and body. And if you embrace them and take it seriously, you get a very nice result for your health and for your peace of mind. But it doesn't necessarily connect with any political position, nor does it connect with, free love and all that stuff. It's really not that.
So I understand meditation is a significant and important part of Taoism.
It is.
Can you explain why?
So the number one thing, if you have any spiritual interest in if you have an interest in spiritual things at all in your life, in other words, something that is beyond the material world or something that is beyond what you think you know about how things work.
Sure.
The very first job you have to do is you have to recognize that something is going on. So that simple statement is actually not a trivial one. So whether you go out on a boat and turn off the motor and sit a few miles offshore and just listen to the water and watch the currents, whether you go into the forest or the desert and just spend some quiet time, sooner or later, if you're quiet, you will notice, wow, something's going on. What do I mean by that? I mean that there is some progression, some process ongoing. Fish appear and then they disappear. The trees move. Your heart beats. Things are happening. Something is going on. Now, this sounds, at first blush, like an obvious and trite statement, but it's anything but that. The actual recognition that something beyond your understanding and control is going on, something larger, is job one. And so meditation is just like, meditation is an exercise training for your mind. People have all kinds of different things they like to do for their body. Maybe some people like tennis, some people like ping pong. Some people like to swim, some people like to ride their bike, some people like to play ball, some people like to run. There's all kinds of things you can do with your body, and is one better than the other? I wouldn't say so.
Monk, I hate to do this, but we've run out of time for tonight. I want to thank you very much for joining us and Exo Nation. The name of the book is Mad Monk Manifesto, and it's available at
Please
Amazon.com.
pick up a copy if you can.
We'll
Thank
be
you
back on the
so
other
much.
side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie, natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.